All right, good morning, YouTube. Hopefully, everyone can hear me and this is on and we have no more issues. So, I've been working out with a new studio feature utilizing a computer, obviously, some nice backlighting, and a microphone. So, with that said, let's talk more about the video we were talking about last night. Why martial law and the Insurrection Act are still on the table because what's happening in Portland. So the situation, for those of you that do or do not know, Antifa has been designated a Antarc I can't say the word terrorist organization, and as a result, they are deploying U.S. troops to the area to help support the local law enforcement as well as the ICE agents with what's going on in that situation. You're having active pushback from these groups, which is now causing chaos, disaster, and riot like situations in the area. And it is also causing the head of the National Guard, whether it's the general or the governor of certain areas, to say that the only way we are sending our troops is to help with protecting the protesters. This is setting the table for an insurrection act. You're having insurrectionist type activity, which is causing fear and chaos in the areas. And you had our own president come out and say we're going to be deploying troops into different cities, democratic cities with high crime. You're going to have major pushback from that. New York being a sanctuary state, especially New York City, you have violent, illegal migrant groups all over the city, especially Times Square, which is a major tourist hub, as well as the outer boroughs. And you're seeing it time and time again. The train incident with the illegal immigrant sprayed gasoline or lighter fluid all over somebody, set her on fire, and nobody did anything. It is the individual duties of the cities, states to protect the citizens there within. And if they're not, unfortunately, the US government has to step in. By no means am I glorifying or advocating for what's happening, but something truly needs to be done to stop the crime that is going on. But you're having laser tag parties, is what I saw last night, where they're taking lasers and they're shining it in the helicopters that are patrolling the area, whether they're military or police helicopters. This is one disaster away from becoming an uncontained thing that we won't be able to stop. That's why I write in today's headline that martial law and the Insurrection Act are very much on the table. It might not be full blown martial law, but it will be martial law pocketed in the areas that the troops are in. And this is a very dangerous precedent. I've already said this numerous times. Just because it is currently being used to restore law and order under the guise of illegal immigration, the protest in regards, does not mean that it can't be flipped on its side and used against American citizens for a future president seating, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. You're seeing it right now in different countries, the UK being one of them, where if you speak out against the government, they're coming to arrest you. You have 67-year-old women praying in public and being arrested for that, for Christian prayers. But then you're allowed to have the Islamic hold a prayer at 5 o'clock in the morning, disrupting normal order. If you're going to allow one group to do it, you need to allow everyone to do it. That's the only way it's fair. That's the only way that it should be allowed. But you're having a lot of situations where there is potential for global conflict. But let's get back to our own country. As of the making of this video, which is about 9:30 Eastern time, the gold is over $4,000, $4,009.02. Silver has breached 50 again in the second day, $50.54. What does that tell you? That tells you a few different things. Either there is going to be an economic collapse, either there's going to be a housing collapse, or the trust in the US dollar is vanishing. Why is this important? Does that mean to go out and hoard silver? No. I'm not going to tell you to do that. And that's not legal advice or financial advice, but that's not something you should be doing right now. If you go out and purchase $1,000 of silver, the buying power is nowhere near where it was approximately a year, if not 2 years ago. You're not going to, you're better off spending it on your bullets, beans, and band-aids at this point. And I've said this numerous times. There is only so much silver you can carry on your person. Is it a good way to diversify your portfolio? Absolutely. I would be cashing in stocks right now, especially if they're up. Again, that's just my opinion, not financial advice. There are a lot of things that are variables right now. You have a shaky housing market because you have a market where people can't afford to live. You have houses that are going for $1 million where 4 years ago they're going for 400. People can't live. People can't survive. You're having people angry at the wrong people, and they're taking it out on the U.S. troops, and the mayors and governors are trying to be in bed with their constituents and making sure that local and state police aren't backing the military or ICE. So you have a potential for a very, very dangerous situation. For anybody that's on right now, do you have any questions, comments, concerns? For the month of October, Dark Knight Medics is offering 10% off at all items $49 and above will be 10% off at Dark Knight Medics, as well as we are back on Patreon. Patreon is a format for me to go more in depth in the subjects that we talk about here. So let's continue with the martial law. What would martial law look like pocketed in the US? Martial law would not be the doom and gloom that you think it's going to be initially. Again, this is all hypothetically speaking. So martial law would just be enforcing curfews. Martial law would be pretty much military taking over the law enforcement aspect in your area. And it's not an immediate cause for concern. It's an immediate cause for concern the minute you have anarchists fighting back, and then they have to then up the ante. And when you go against a military, regardless if you are equipped or not, you're gonna lose. You might win battles, but you will always lose the war. I keep telling people that's why I advocate on this channel for self-reliance and the ability to not be involved in that, being gray man. So it'll be pocketed. It will be, I don't believe, a national emergency, at least this point. And it's just going to be curfew enforcement. You'll have troops in the street enforcing different things. It's not a situation you or your family want to be in. That's for sure. You don't want to put yourself in a situation that is going to potentially cause you harm if you leave the house, because that will either A, leave your group without you, your family without you, or B, get you in some sort of trouble that you shouldn't be in. That's why I advocate for self-reliance. So that's what I initially think martial law would look at like. As protest and rioting begins to grow in different democratic areas, I see the potential for martial law growing to a regional and then eventually a national level. Again, all it takes is one bad instance to kick off a chain reaction to where it is a violent resistance. Again, why I'm telling you to figure out an alternate location for you and your loved ones to go to, whether it's a bug out location, whether it is a loved one that lives out of state, or preferably a red state in a rural area. This is why I advocate for that. I cannot stress enough the importance of having a place to go. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to be landlocked like some of us are, where you're not able to get out. During 9/11, they closed all major bridges in Staten Island and into New York City. So at that point, you were in a bug-in situation, which you better be prepared for that. I've talked numerous times about whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a man-made disaster, that If you're unable to get out, you need to make the best of what you have. And that's why I advocate for your preps, making sure you have food, making sure you have water, making sure you have a way to cook, making sure you have a way to stay clean, making sure you have a means to defend yourself. That is your constitutional right, the ability to keep and bear arms and defend yourself. But don't get that twisted to say that this channel is advocating for violence. It's not. It's merely preserving your life and the life of others when serious physical injury or imminent death are near. That's why I advocate for your bullets, beans, and mandates, because you're seeing it in other countries. I know on the news today, a terrorist attack was thwarted in, I believe, Sweden, where in Belgium police foil jihadist plot involving drone-mounted explosives. And the reason why I bring that up is because there is still a looming terror attack that is supposed to be happening in this country, all over cities throughout the United States. If that starts happening and you start having blowback from that, and you better believe that there will be martial law and an insurrection act being invoked. And then God help all of us when that happens, because it's going to be a very scary time in this country. But rest assured, if you are prepared, if you have a good mindset, you're going to get through that. No problem. You'll be fine. Just like every other emergency you've dealt with. But you are going to be that guiding light. You are going to be the one that your group, your family, your loved ones look up to when disaster strikes. That's why you need, and cannot stress it enough, need to have a plan. You need to have a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan, because I can tell you that numerous times, whether I was camping, whether it was during Hurricane Sandy or at work, the plan goes to shit, and you need to figure out what your next step is going to be. You can't freeze. The minute you start freezing is going to be seconds, minutes wasted to get that person the help, to get you out of the situation you're in. That's why you need to plan, talk about scenarios, have like-minded people in your life in order to help you through situations. So a lot was talked about today. Main ideas being martial law and insurrection act are very much on the table. And I think it's going to be one or the two of them will be within the next few weeks. You have plans to have U.S. troops train in these urban environments, whether it's Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Portland. That should be of concern. You have talks about sending in troops to different areas because evidently it worked in D.C. That should be cause for concern. It becomes a very, very slippery slope, and a very dangerous one at that, especially when you have local municipalities, Chicago, New York, saying that they don't need the U.S. troops. But it's not up to them. They're playing to constituents. That's why it is scary, because when those federal law enforcement officers or the military are bogged down and need help, and you have directives from local authorities for local law enforcement to not help, it becomes a very scary situation, because at the end of the day, that's still a life and they're there to help. But like I told you, it becomes a very slippery slope. All right, for anyone that's watching, if you have a comment, concern, question, please ask it now. If not, I will be signing off. I most likely will not be back again until Tuesday. It's a long weekend, and I know I have some different events to go to. So if there are any questions, please ask them. If not, I will be back on Tuesday. Hopefully you like the new setup that we're doing. A little backlighting, little microphone action, and a fuller screen. We're going to be getting rid of, against my wishes, we're going to be getting rid of the icon. Currently, I want to make this channel more professional. I want to make this channel a source of information for you, and you will be proud to share. So hopefully if you hit that like button, I know many of you watching right now have not done so. Please hit that like button. Please hit that share button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Have a great day and stay tuned for further.